So since you brought it up, I wanted to ask you. Well, I wanted to ask you this before you brought it up, but then you brought it up. What do you say to progressive Christians? We put them in quotes, who do all the gymnastics and to say that the Bible does not teach that homosexuality is a sin. So you, as somebody who could have easily found that kind of doctrine and been like, oh yeah, cool, I could do the Jesus thing and the gay thing, put them together, good to go. You could have easily, from a rationality perspective, not a spiritual perspective, but a rationality, like our fallen rational human nature. You could have been like, yeah, I'll do both. And there's so many people who do try to do both because they really only doing one. But what do you say to progressives who say that, oh no, you can be gay and be a Christian and still continue living the gay lifestyle and do pretty much whatever you want with your body?
Well, I think if you really dig deep when it comes to progressive Christianity, is that they don't actually believe the word of God. Like they don't like every argument that I've seen at some point they will admit that the word is not infallible, so that the word is fallible, and that they can't trust it, that it was written by man. And so I think a really good example of this is this guy. He actually follows me on TikTok, which is funny, and I consider us to be friends. But his name is Brandon Roberts, and a lot of people, they don't like him. They think he's like a false, teacher, and I would agree. I don't agree with his teachings, but I'm civil, and I respect a human being, and I hope that the Lord, works on his heart. If I'm right or if he's right, whatever. I believe I am right, but even he will admit, like, he doesn't believe that the word of God is infallible. He doesn't. He believes that it's written by man, and that some things are made up, some things are out of context. And so to me, when I was, I think it would have been like the perfect scapegoat to just be like, oh, I'm going to be a progressive Christian and I'm just going to um, be gay. But I'm like, that's too easy. That's too easy. Like if I really want to follow God, like I'm not doing this for anybody else, and I'm not doing it for myself. I'm doing this for God. So I need to know what God thinks, not what I think. And what does his word say? And so when I read the accounts of Genesis, I take it very literally, to some extent. I'm like, I see a man and a female, and I see how they complement one another. I see how, not to get graphic, but a woman's private parts is meant to be receiving from a man's private parts. They're meant to procreate. Like, you cannot do that with a male and a male. You can't do that with a female and a female. That's not possible. I mean, until AI takes over and there's clones and
That's
genetic.
a that's a whole other podcast, Sam. That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, like I mean, that I'm sure that'll happen one day. But when I see that, I mean, to me, it just makes logical sense. It's like I look at the Bible, I look at the accounts, I look at how God has been, and to me, I think there was also that exploration of the Bible where it was. I didn't just want to hear it from somebody else. Like, I did my research. I was like, I'm gonna go to seminary. I went to Bible college. I went to Oral Roberts University. I got my biblical literature degree. Well, I didn't finish it, but I'm planning on finishing it. But it was exciting for me to actually not just hear it from other people, so that other people were telling me what I should believe, but to see it for myself, to see the evidence. What are the facts? What is the context? And I do believe that the word of God is infallible, for sure. That it is the truth. It cannot change. That's who God is. Those are the accounts of people who are experiencing God. And I think, like, yeah, I could have just become progressive Christian and just been like, okay, well, I'm gonna be gay and have my cake and eat it too. But I didn't want my cake. Like, I was like, I want God. So if God says no to this, then I will say no to it. I don't care how much I have to suffer, because I know that at the end of the day, I'm gonna try his path, not my path. I already tried my path, and it didn't work out for me. And so I'm gonna try God's path, and I know it's gonna be good for me because that's what his word says. And that's what has actually ended up happening in my life, is that my whole life has changed. I've gotten better in my personality, how I treat other people. There's so many fruits of the spirit that are now in my life that I couldn't even produce on my own if I wanted to produce on my own. And so I think that's the real root, is that they just don't believe the word of God, or they'll make excuses for the word of God. And I, I don't know how anyone could do that. I mean, with the amount of just research and studying that I've done, I've never seen a logical argument that would ever make me even begin to question, besides experiencing myself, knowing full well when I was involved in many homosexual relationships, I didn't have peace. I didn't have joy. I didn't have happiness. Besides experiencing for myself, reading about it and seeing it from the Word of God, and studying about it, I'm like, there's no logical explanation that would ever make me want to believe this again. I don't believe that two men can have that agape love for one another. I'm sorry, for one another, in the way that a male and a female could have that for each other, because God has to be in the center of that. And God is not in the center of two men coming together to have romantic sexual intimacy.
You have just said a lot, you know, and it needs to be said, because when we say it, you know, when straight white Christian male says it, you know, it like falls on deaf ears. And so this is why I appreciate your ministry so much, because they're willing, some are willing to listen to you just because of where you come from. You relate to them, and I think that it's so important. Thanks so much for watching that clip from the Why Jesus podcast. If you want to see the full episode, click right here, and you can also find us on all streaming services. God bless.